So how was your day, man?
My day's going pretty good. It's actually towards the end of my day.
Yeah, because
I was working graveyards. But it's always interesting because I have to stay up in order to pay bills or go shopping because of the fact that I'm getting off an hour before stores open.
Yeah.
So it's either wake up extra early or go to bed late.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm having to readjust right now because I just joined graveyards again. And I haven't done graveyards in like 10 years. So yeah, oh my god, actually, yeah, it's been about 10 years since I first started graveyards. But no, oh man, I've been having an adjustment period, so thank you for pushing this back like a day because I've been having the worst fucking luck with it. I thought I was gonna be able to snap right into it, and the first day I'm supposed to, we have all these water problems going on in the house. So we got the guy that comes over to fix all that stuff. He comes over. He's trying to fix everything, and then he ends up flooding the house, and it's like a whole day's worth of shit that should have only been 30 minutes. But it happens.
Yeah, that's life.
Yeah. So this bourbon peach.
Yes, it's one of the flavors of jerky that I make. I brought that along in case you wanted to try it.
Hell yeah.
Unfortunately, we will need some kind of knife to cut this.
Yeah. Because
it's not a resealable bag. It's a one-time, once it's open, it's open.
It looks good.
Oh, it really is.
I'll probably grab it a knife.
I also brought along some dragon fruit leather.
Okay.
Which is basically just pureed fruit with maple syrup dried.
And this is the maple syrup what's holding it all together?
Yeah.
Okay. That looks pretty interesting too.
So
does it melt?
Huh?
Does it melt?
It's sticky but does not melt.
Okay. Oh yeah, that sounds awesome. So, what are these things that you're interested in? Like these RPGs and stuff. I want to talk about this. Is it Dungeons and Dragons, or is it primarily that, or is there other things that you get into?
It's primarily Dungeons and Dragons, mainly because of the fact that is the most common. And that is the one that a lot of people, it's this. It's like, yeah, it's this. It uses the same rules as 5th edition, and it's just tweaked or introduces new things. The one that I'm currently playing and researching a lot into is Iron Kingdoms. It's created by a Privateer Press, and basically it's Victorian era steampunk with magic.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. It's a little bit like that. Have you seen I don't know if it's like this, but the Lies of P video game? It's Pinocchio, but it's steampunk. And it plays like a Dark Souls game or something like that.
I believe I've seen the trailer to it, or at least a picture of a giant mech.
Do you play games like that? Do you play video games, or are you just more into like the board RPG type?
I do play video games. I prefer the RPGs because of the fact that you can do whatever.
Yeah, all the freedom in the world and just create.
Yeah.
You should definitely look into Crimson Desert when that comes out. It's so good.
It's just really interesting because with RPGs, of course, I favor tabletop RPGs. Because there's MMORPGs, which is World of Warcraft, Rifts, your online, massive multiplayer online role-playing games. TTRPG is your tabletop role-playing games, which is paper and pencil. Some people do use their phones and computers for their books or their dice. I prefer the old-fashioned paper pencil with clickety-clackety dice. So it's really fun because you get to create anybody.
Do you have a community that you play with, or some friends that you guys get together and you guys have specific days? Or is it hard to get everybody?
It's hard to get everybody on the same page because I work graveyards. Everyone else I know does days. So it's like...
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the ones that I'm trying to game with are up in Albuquerque. So that adds another struggle with the distance.
The distance, the timing, it's hard to play games like that.
Yeah.
I think that's why I never really got into them, because who the fuck am I going to play with? Who am I going to reach out to at least once a week? That's hard. It's hard to get a hold of people. But, I know there's people out here in town.
Yeah.
They're trying to, but they kind of run into the same issue. So it's like, what if I get you guys here and you guys here, and we guys just meet up? I wish that I have like a Socorro community type of, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons game going.
Well, it should be easier to get going because of the fact that you have tech and you have World Tree, which is a local gaming store.
Yeah.
They have Dungeons and Dragons and dice and an area to play. But you're going to run into a lot of people who go to tech and so they play at tech. Or they already have these tightly formed groups that they've been playing with for years. So it's just really interesting to see how different people play.
So what are the difference between the editions? You said like the one, what was it? One place similar to another?
Yeah. Well, okay. Dungeons and Dragons has gone through many different editions or versions as the game's aged. The one a lot of people know about currently is 5th edition. The one before that was, of course, 4th, and that one was, from my understanding of the rules of 4th edition, was them trying to bring those who were playing computer games and video games into Dungeons and Dragons. And unfortunately, that just did not work.
How would they even try to attempt to make that work? What was the idea?
I think the idea was to basically create an offline gaming style that they could do in case they lost power or the internet or whatever. Unfortunately, when you are dealing with video games that have once a day abilities, once per turn abilities, it gets very difficult to put all that into a tabletop RPG when you have 6 people all doing their own actions within 6 seconds. And so it's like, how do you moderate that while trying to bring in all this? And so 4th edition had a lot of convoluted this triggers that rules, which people just found way too confusing or bogged down the game so much that it stopped being fun.
Jeez.
Now, the edition that I came into Dungeons & Dragons with was 3.5. 3.5 was a clarification of the rules of 3rd edition, but it used the exact same rules. It just got rid of feats like ambidexterity. Just gave everybody that feat default, instead of you have to take this feat, then this feat, then this feat. Now it's just these two.
God, that sounds, that whole computer thing, man, that sounds so complicated. I thought Dungeons and Dragons was just a board game, like, or like not even really a board game. Like, isn't there like you just get some like audiobooks or not audiobooks, but you just
PDFs.
Yeah, you just get the PDFs, figure out what is it, the worlds, I guess, the rules within them, and you start to create a story and develop a character. Are there books, like actual written like stories, like books about just made up characters for Dungeons and Dragons?
There are, of course, the fictions. You got Dread Stewart and Bruenor Battlehammer. You have their stories, and they are from the I want to say Faerun. They are from the Forgotten Realms. I can't quite remember which campaign setting the Forgotten Realms is from. But there's different campaign settings where you have different lores, different rules to the settings. For example, in Eberron, there's a race that's basically what happens when a werewolf breeds with a human. This is their descendant. And then there's this race that's a robot, but it's sentient. It was designed for war.
They breed and stuff, or they just make more of each other out of spare parts, or is it like the Robots movie?
That's a very fair question. Unfortunately, in the lore of Eberron, there were no more being made. They were built for war, and then the war ended. But what do you do with all these sentient war machines that no longer have a purpose?
Make them do the hard work.
You make them do the hard work mainly because they don't have to breathe, they don't tire, they have all these unique rules because, well, they're machines. So, yeah, you can have them working on a bridge underwater. They don't have to breathe.
Yeah. So can you create like a, I don't know, like, are there no rules? I don't even really know what to, like, I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. So I guess I would just be asking for the people like me who just don't know. Like, can you really just do whatever you want? Or are there limitations within each, I guess, campaign setting? Or
there are limitations within each campaign setting, and then each dungeon master, the one who guides the players, may have additional rules or aren't as strict on the rules to the campaign setting. Or they may have created their own campaign setting where fire is blue, water is yellow.
No, don't drink that. No, I had a like, the Dungeons and Dragons movie was on a couple nights ago, and it was on, like, I was just in passing, and I saw this scene, and maybe it was just out of context, but I don't even know how it was. It's like these guys, they're all watching this person that's like tied to a post or something. It's like these guards, and I don't know what they're doing, but they're all talking, and suddenly this horse turns into this, I think it's a horse, I might have seen it wrong, but it's like suddenly there's this horse that turns into like an owl bear. Yes. Starts devastating these motherfuckers, and then it's a little girl.
Yes.
So I was thinking, I was like, oh my god, this movie is being filmed or written in the way the dungeon master would just randomly throw shit at people, like, just to confuse them or make shit interesting. It's like, wait, suddenly there's this horse that turns into this vicious owl bear, and now it's fucking you guys up. Defend yourselves, roll 6 or some shit, and then now suddenly it's this little elf girl, and she's actually pretty cool. Like
Doric is a tiefling raised by the Emerald Glaive elves, and she's a druid, so she's capable of wild shaping or changing her form.
This is an actual person in Dungeons and Dragons. They didn't just make her up for the movie.
I don't know if they made her up for the movie or not, but right before the movie released, Dungeons and Dragons released a character sheet for her. So that way, if a dungeon master wanted to bring her into their game, they could.
So when you bring a character like that into the game, do you need a physical person to play the character?
Not always. Sometimes they can be played by the dungeon master, and then they become a DM PC or an NPC. A DM PC is a dungeon master player's character.
Okay.
NPC is a non-player character. The difference would be if you bring Doric in, she's a DM PC because she has character levels. She has a class. She has skills that your standard tavern keeper doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Tavern keeper, bar wench, all those are going to be your NPCs.
I wish that they would just make a really cool, like AAA, beautiful looking video game like Dungeons and Dragons, where it's not a point and click and they walk around, like kind of like Baldur's Gate. Like I wish it was something that like you could actually like kind of like Skyrim, just make it beautiful, because then I could probably find time to get into that.
Yeah.
Make it online and then just play with a bunch of people like that. I feel like that'd be just, the online part would be so convenient if it was done like that.
Yeah.
But something about it being played in person with a group of friends, like that's like when I'm watching Stranger Things and I see the boys together and they're all just having a good fucking time. That looks cool. That feels magical.
Yeah.
But it's not. We're not there anymore, I think.
That's the very interesting and amazing thing about technology. Is even though it's allowed us to enjoy the same game over a distance, as technology changes, media changes, and so in order to have something like Dungeons and Dragons join the online gaming world, you lose a part of it. And it's very difficult to translate these rules into this world and vice versa. And 4th edition was a prime example of that, where they tried to take the online world and bring it into RPG.
Yeah.
I
feel like they could have succeeded. They just went about it the worst way possible.
Yeah.
What year was that when they tried that?
I want to say that was 2010s.
Oh yeah.
2010s. But I'm not 100% sure because of the fact that I never played 4th edition.
If it came out around that time, and that's the time when Skyrim was just up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I don't think anyone was going to pay it enough attention. Oh my god.
Well, what's very interesting is the fact that there are still remnants of 4th edition in 5th edition. A prime example being the Warlock class. It recovers its spells faster than a wizard or a sorcerer, but they don't get as many spells. So, yeah, you can get your spells back on a short rest, but you don't have as many.
Is it better to have more?
That's a very tricky, thing to answer because of the fact that you get a wider selection and you can cast more spells, but at the same time, you require more downtime. So, yeah, you're limited in options, but you get your spells back faster. It's just, how do you want to play? Do you want to be a up and down blaster, or do you want to be somebody who can level keep, but has to spend a long time recovering to be able to do it again?
I think I'd rather have a few spells and just...
Yeah. That's one thing I do like about 5th edition is cantrips or your 0 level spells. You can cast them non-stop. You're not limited by spell slots, you're not limited by prepared spells or spell levels because of the fact that they're effortless. And so that's where the warlock really shines, is they have a decent damage on a cantrip that they can just blast 12 times and do a fair bit of damage.
So, how long have you been playing Dungeons & Dragons?
Well, Dungeons & Dragons was not the first RPG I ever played. But I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since 2009.
Do you, based on whatever editions you're playing, do you carry over the same character, or do you make many different characters, or do you have different campaigns for different characters, or do you just try to carry them all over the place? Just like one, with just one. I don't know.
I have a stack of characters about the size of a Monster Energy drink can, and those are characters that I haven't touched. I've made them, but haven't used them. And those...
Do you draw them up and stuff, and give little like backstories to them, or?
I give them little backstories. I'm no artist, so I can't really draw pictures of them. But each one has its own backstory and why it's adventuring and its ideals, bonds, and flaws. Yeah, each one's its own person. But that's covering 3.5, that's covering Pathfinder, that's covering Iron Kingdoms Original, that's covering Iron Kingdoms Requiem, that's covering 5th edition, that's covering Star Wars, the different editions of Star Wars.
Star Wars?
Yes.
Is Star Wars RPGs?
Yes.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are these?
Well, I prefer Star Wars Revised. It follows the same rules as the 3.5, 3rd and 3.5 D&D. And so, yeah, I find that to be a lot better.
Are these made by the same people that make Dungeons and Dragons?
No. Actually, that version of Star Wars was created by Wizards of the Coast. However, they lost their license. So I ended up being picked up by, I want to say, Fantasy Flight. And they are the ones who are doing the new version of it, which I want to say is Edge of Empire, where you have a specialty dice set for the rules, and it's, instead of being a D20 system, it's a D6 system.
What's a D20?
A D20 is a 20-sided dice, and it has 1 through 20 on it.
Like I said, I don't know anything, man.
A D20 system is a game system that primarily uses the D20 to determine success or failure. You have the other dice is a D12, D8, D10, D6. D6 is your standard Monopoly die. And then the D6 systems, they only use D6s. So you don't have to worry about all the different dice. It's just, how many of these Monopoly die do I need?
So you play these games. Do you also play what's it called, Magic the Gathering?
I used to.
Why'd you stop?
I stopped because of the fact that, one, it was just too expensive, and two, it got to a point where there were so many different ways to build one deck that you could have 4 people all sit down, build an elf deck, and it'd be built 100 different ways. And it never played the same way twice. So, yeah, you'll have one elf deck that proliferates, another elf deck that just spawns elves like crazy, and another elf deck that just mana ramps.
I've tried playing Magic the Gathering so many times. I played a few sessions with some buddies, and it was while I was learning, so it just confused me further. They were always like, "Oh, you can't do this or this or this." So I'm watching what they do, and I'm putting it together in my head, and I'm kind of like learning. So then I go and I do what I believe was exactly like what they did, but then they tell me I can't because then this person over here has got this card that matches this dude's card, so it just completely says fuck you. And then they're like, but I have a card that'll level the entire playing field, and then I'm like, hey, I got one too, and I put it down and go like, oh, but no, this card over here is gonna stop you from doing that, and it only fucks your shit up only. I don't know, like so many rules, so many gears turning, and so many things that keep on changing.
I mean, my best recommendation when it comes to learning Magic the Gathering is to play Magic the Gathering Arena. I want to say it's on phone, PC, and Xbox.
Okay.
I'm not sure about PlayStation. Mainly because I'm not a PlayStation person. But it teaches you the basics of deck building and the basics of how the turn goes, the stack, and all the nuanced rules.
Okay.
But it teaches it in a step-by-step method, so you're not getting hit with all these rules at once.
See, and I thought Arenas was just for the pro players or something.
No. It's actually a really great way to introduce people, and then they can go to the physical cards and go from there.
And then I'm going to hear, oh, well, Arenas has different rules than what we're doing. We're playing prison style right now. We're gonna.
Well, I don't know if EDH or Commander is in Arena, but if you learn the basics from Arena and then read the basic outline rules for Commander, it makes it a lot easier. Once you get the core basics.
Commander was what I was playing a lot of.
Oh, yeah. And Commander.
And I know this guy, man, he just whips them out. He's like not even, like, he's like 17 steps ahead of you, and he's just putting them all out, and he's speaking a different language.
Yes.
And then he's just telling you you're dead, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Or I hate it when they go and they take your people that you have on the field, and they turn them against you.
Yes.
It's
yes.
explain yourself, and then they do explain, but I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going
on. When I started playing the Mirrodin Besieged set was just coming out, and I was using a green beast deck. It was a basic deck that my friend had built, and because of the fact that he preferred black vampires, he's like, hey, I'll teach you this game and give you this deck. Well, what I didn't know was that he was a tournament player and was a decent one in the area. And so I wasn't learning the basic, I was learning the tournament style. And so it got to the point where me, him, and the rest of our friends ended up constantly placing in the top 5 in the local game store tournaments. And it's like, at that point it stopped becoming fun, because to me it's about the story, not about winning.
Okay, so is it like every time you play Magic, it's kind of like a little campaign?
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of it like that. I've never perceived it to be that way, ever, because I think maybe just because I was in a mixture of trying to figure it all out, and these guys just rapid fire throwing out their cards.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see the story that's unfolding in Commander because you have so much happening so quickly, and you have such a thin connector between the 100 cards in your deck. It may be a special ability that they all share, or it could be a single creature type.
Okay.
Whereas when you go with the standard 60 card, there's a much more solid connection throughout the deck.
Yeah.
It's not about...
Yeah, because Commander's like 120.
100 card singleton. And what that means is there's 100 cards in there, and you are only allowed 1 copy of each card except for basic lands.
I don't know if that's how they did it. Pretty sure I saw some doublers a few times that were not basic lands.
Now, you do have this there are several commander decks that do create tokens, which could be copies of other cards.
That's right, I forgot about the tokens.
Yeah.
God, tokens.
Tokens are fun.
They were
done right.
Yeah, when they're I don't know. I feel like I just got my ass handed to me so many fucking times in Magic that I'm becoming a little bit of a hater. So, does any of this stuff, any of these games, as long as you've been playing, like, does it influence how you go about your day-to-day life? Like with making the jerky and the fruit leather, mead.
Honestly, the things that I've learned from these RPGs and Magic the Gathering is you can have fun anywhere. And you can have fun anywhere, and how to better manage my own mental processes, and that way all hell could be going loose around me, but it's like, you know what? I could either stress about it, or I could make the best out of a bad situation.
Okay.
As far as the mead making, the jerky, and the fruit leathers, I've been teaching myself interesting things that just appeal to me. And, well, jerky's expensive. And I've been able to cut down my cost of jerky by almost half. Just by making it myself. And
this bourbon peach, I don't think you're gonna find that anywhere in town.
I do go for different flavors because, well, you can't find bourbon peach.
Yeah.
And so it's like, ooh, that flavor sounds good. I'll make a test batch. Oh, that came out good. So I package it, and that way if somebody wants to buy a bag off of me, it's like, hey, here.
How much do you sell a bag?
I sell my bags at 8 ounces for $20.
Okay.
That averages out to $2.50 an ounce. You can get 1 ounce bags from Circle K, and it's $5, almost $6.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just ridiculous.
And it's a little thin, dried up.
Yeah. The jerky I do, I can do the thin.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer thick. Because especially when I'm working with a marinade or a barbecue sauce or something like that, I want the thicker slices so that way it absorbs more.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You get more flavor out of it. I'm really excited to try it. I wish I had a knife in here.
Okay. Cut this.
You know what?
Doesn't matter what
I think I
side.
will. I'm gonna be right back.
I double heat seal to make sure that it doesn't spring a leak as easily. But it does make it slightly more difficult to open.
I can smell it. Oh. Is this beef?
Yes. Go ahead, get your hands in there.
Okay.
That's pretty fucking tasty. That's pretty fucking good. Damn. Alright, so you got the podcast, you're good. You can keep talking. It's gonna take me a minute. No, this shit's really good. I like this.
Yeah. Now, I've looked into opening up a jerky shop, and it's actually not that difficult to get all of the licensing you need. The biggest hurdle that I've found is getting a location, because with working with meat, you need a certifiable, inspectable kitchen. And unless you have a dedicated space where you can seal it off from animals and from other things like that, you can't have it be inspectable and certifiable.
So, why don't you just sell at the farmer's market then?
That's where you need the license. Because it is a meat product that's cooked, you need to be certified and have all these permits and stuff in order to sell at the farmer's market or have your own storefront.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, man, get on that shit because it's an investment that's worth getting into.
Yeah. Right now, the biggest hurdle for me is finding a location where I can cook the meat that my dog does not have access to.
So because your dog lives with you, you can't cook it at home?
Right. Legally, I can't.
Well, I don't know, man. Walter White that shit. Go get a fucking RV. Go out in the desert. I don't know. Go make some jerky. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nah, this shit's really good. I like this a lot. Thank you.
No problem.
Actually, I think complements the coffee pretty well too.
I do have a few flavors. There's bourbon peach, there's garlic parmesan, there's garlic buffalo, there's Frank's Red Hot Buffalo. And then I have what I call my cowboy style. Basically, it's really thin sliced, marinated in different smoke flavors. So you have your hickory, your mesquite, your pecan, your apple smoked flavorings, and it's just really thin sliced, soaked in that, and then cooked.
Sorry, I'm still chewing.
Oh, it's fine.
Don't be giving out all your secrets, man. I really think you should get it, and you should hurry up and go get that stuff and go sell this farmer's market, especially by the spring. I think you'll be a big hit.
Yeah.
They got a lot of creative people over there.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you'll be a very welcomed addition to that whole farmer's market family. They really feel like that. Like they're like a family, like a really tight community, really cool people.
Now,
I think they like you a lot. You fit in well.
What's really interesting though is the fruit leather is cooked in the same machine at a slightly lower temperature for a slightly longer time. But because it's not meat, I can sell it at the farmer's market just fine.
You should do that then.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out a good price because of the fact that it is fruit. It is a little more costly when it comes to a smaller batch. So it's figuring that out and making sure that I get the flavors right.
And you said that's a dragon fruit what?
It's a dragon fruit with maple syrup.
I'm going to take pictures of this stuff.
No problem.
And share them with everybody. It's fighting me back.
Yes. Unfortunately, I did overstuff that mason jar, and so it's a bit tricky to get out.
I'm getting it. This is why, not helping my case here. People keep telling me that I need to get video going for this thing, for this podcast. I don't know if I want to do that. Show you guys how badly I struggled getting this homemade fruit roll-up out.
Essentially, it is a homemade fruit roll-up.
That's good. That's sweet. Yeah, that's very sweet. That's good though.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. You can't unravel it like a fruit roll-up though.
Unfortunately not. And that's part of the experimentation that I'm doing is figuring out the right maple syrup to fruit consistency, making it to where you can unravel it and stuff like that. So far, most of what I'm seeing online is to leave the parchment paper on it when you roll it.
That makes sense.
And it's like, as much as I want to do that, I don't want somebody accidentally eating the parchment paper. Because
Well, you know what? If they can't understand that there's packaging in this stuff, you know, maybe they should eat the parchment paper. You know, maybe they should just.
Well, I will say this: eating parchment paper isn't lethal. It's not. It will hurt you, but not severely.
They will be fine. They will be okay. I'm sure there are people. I'm sure people can take the parchment paper off. And you know what? If they can't, and if they're just gobbling away and they're just eating, you know, then they deserve that parchment paper too.
Well, I can laugh about this because I've done that.
And you're alive.
Yes.
So it's okay.
You can eat the parchment paper while it's still attached to the fruit leather, it's the first few batches, it stuck
to the parchment paper
because I didn't know you were supposed to put non-stick onto the parchment paper.
Oh, so you had no choice but to eat the parchment.
Right. So it's like, will this make me sick? No, it will not. It just won't taste good, and it may cause some digestive issues.
Trial and error. You're figuring your things out, but this is a pretty cool little business.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna take off. I wish I had people here right now. You guys are gonna love this stuff. It's cool. All two of you listening. That stuff's awesome. Now you just got to figure out how to get the fruit onto the meat. Create like this sticky, glazy, dried, delicious snack. Sweet, savory, or are you doing that already?
I've thought about it. The only issues that I'm running into is consistency. Because of the fact that I've either gotten the meat to absorb the flavor of the fruit, or just they not stick together at all.
Oh. And it just fall off of it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least the meat got the flavor.
In one of the test batches.
Dude, I got a lot of faith in your stuff. I've actually tried your meat before. Like 2.5, maybe 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time. It's been a really long time. But actually, I got it through John.
Yes.
And well, I didn't get it. He had it. I guess him and his wife bought some from you. And yeah, dude, it was good. Sweet. It was also very sweet. Really good. If I recall correctly, I think you had like a blueberry one.
Yes.
Yeah, that one's. And then never again. Didn't hear anything again.
Yeah, unfortunately, with that, it was a matter of maintaining sanitary conditions because, again, doing this at home and with sanitation and with climate environment controls, if one thing goes wrong, it ruins the whole thing.
I understand that. It's like when people are growing indoors, fruits, vegetables, mushrooms apparently could be the easiest thing and the hardest thing to grow.
Yeah.
It depends on who you talk to. But yeah.
Another tricky thing about mead is it's not one of those set it aside for 6 hours and then drink it. That's something that takes no less than a month.
That's crazy too.
Yeah.
Like, I understand because everything has to ferment and you're essentially making like honey wine, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mead is often sold as a dessert wine because of the fact that it is basically a honey wine. Instead of using grapes, you use honey.
Yeah.
Exact same process, either way. Just different primary sugars.
And it's fucking delicious.
Yes.
It's so good. I don't think I've ever had a bad mead. I don't think.
I have. But it was one of the ones I made.
Oh. Trial and error.
Yes. I am my own guinea pig.
Okay. That explains a lot.
If I don't like it, I don't present it to the public. I don't let other people taste it. Because
if it's not good enough for you, the one who made it, I get that.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just... The mead was really nice to do because it was one of those set it up, set it aside.
Mm-hmm.
And then with life happening, with the divorce, with everything else, it was just, either wasn't cost effective, or I wasn't going through enough to make it justifiable.
Are you ever going to get back into it? Do you think? Have you played around with the idea?
I've played around with the idea, mainly because of the fact that I still have, all my equipment. And it's just a matter of getting the yeast again.
Yeah.
And so it's just, once I get the yeast, I can get batches going again. And with New Mexico being the way it is, you can make your own wine or mead in your own home. No problem.
Wait, was there ever a problem with this? Is this something that people can't do?
There are some states that don't allow making of wine or mead at home.
Okay.
And New Mexico is one of the ones that does allow it. And you are allowed to make up to 100 gallons per person, per adult residing there.
Yeah.
A year.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. That is a lot, especially at the time I had 2 people living in the house. And so I was quite literally able to make 200 gallons of mead a year. But when I was sitting there making a 3-gallon batch and only selling half a gallon at a time, I ended up with 2.5 gallons sitting around my place.
Well, were you advertising? Were you putting it out there or anything? Or were you got a Facebook page going on for it?
I wasn't advertising because of the fact that I was afraid I was going to get in trouble. Because officially, I'm not allowed to sell. I'm allowed to...
Give it away, though.
Give it away.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the legalities of somebody giving me the funds to make a batch for them. And so that ran into gray areas. And it's like, do I want to chance it?
You just gotta get the proper paperwork and the proper licensing, and man, you can be good to go. Be ready, but you can. But it is perfectly legal to make it for your own consumption.
Right.
Okay. Well, hey man, just keep perfecting that craft, and then eventually get all your shit and get it out there.
Yeah.
And let us know, because I only had that one taste that one time, and I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
So I definitely think you should keep going with it. And seeing you do this with the meat, the fruit, yes, man, you should keep going. You're a very creative person.
Thank you.
And I don't know if I'm just connecting dots that aren't there or whatever, but I really feel like you can tell you play Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, honestly, I am a very creative person, and I teach myself things that I have an interest in. But it's also really interesting playing video games, looking at the armor and going, I wonder if I can make that. And so through that, I have taught myself how to melt down soda cans.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I've taught myself how to make chainmail. I've taught myself how to make jerky, fruit leather, mead. All just from, how do I do this?
Yeah. Are you getting into cosplay at all?
I want to get into cosplay. It's a matter of which subject matter do I dabble into.
Get into the medieval shit. Get into
that's
the
not
fantasy. Huh?
That's not an issue because I've taught myself chainmail. I'm working on learning
you
what
can
I
probably
need.
make yourself some like real legit armor. And that's what I think people should be getting back to
Yes.
these days. Like people should be strutting around in some armor. Stop whipping out guns for fighting and whip out a sword,
If I recall correctly, of course I could be wrong. I believe New Mexico is one of the states where you can still open carry a sword.
That's cool. If that's true, that's cool. I'm gonna go buy a sword. It's tax season. God, that's cool. I think you should go and do one of those. What are they called? Like Renaissance fairs or something, or is it a Renaissance fair? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, where they do the whole like role playing thing, and everyone's just cool as fuck, looking like they're fresh out of Skyrim. Kind of like what I say about the farmers market. First time I went there, I talked about it before. First time ever was over at the plaza. And I go there because my wife sells her crocheted crafts and stuff there. So everyone's like just got their tables out, all the fruits and vegetables. They're making coffee and tea. they got all this cool stuff going on, and they're playing like this live music.
Yeah.
And it's like folky, whatever. And it felt like I was in Skyrim. I felt like I'm just like looking up at the trees. It felt magical as hell. I was like, I was just transported somewhere. I don't know. It was just fucking cool.
Well, it's really amazing visiting farmers markets and run fairs or Renaissance fairs, because it is almost a way of transporting back.
Mm-hmm.
Because these were people who've either taught themselves or carried on a tradition of farming, of agriculture, of raising livestock. These are the no names or local names, and so you're more likely to be able to learn tricks and techniques or ask them questions that you can't get from big name companies. Because a big name company is gonna, no, we don't talk about that. It's like getting the recipe for KFC.
Just follow Jordan the Stallion. I think that's his name.
Right.
On Instagram, follow him. He spills all the secrets on all the recipes. You can get any recipe anywhere.
Right? So unless you go through these local communities and learn who does what and how you can interact with them, you're going to be detached. And that's just beautiful, to be able to interact with them and basically reconnect with where America started.
You're really getting in touch with humanity.
Yes.
And it's something that I feel everybody needs. Everyone should go and stop by at least the farmer's market or go to these fairs or something, because I was just talking about how it would be so cool to have this online huge multiplayer game, but at the same time, there is something extremely magical about gatherings, about people coming together. It's like there's an energy. Being around everybody at the farmer's market for the first time, because I don't go out very much at all. I go to work and go home, go to work, go home. I'm very boring. But it made me realize how out of touch and how awkward I am. I can't talk to people, which is weird because I have a podcast now. It's very strange because I think it's one of the things that that motivated me to start the podcast, because there's I go to the farmer's market and I feel that energy, that magical feeling, and I see these really cool people, and they're just living, doing their thing, and it's like nobody knows. It's like nobody knows about the farmer's market. Nobody knows about these cool, creative people, right? And I work at basically the mall. You know, like the center of the heart, the beating heart of this town, if you will.
Pretty much.
I don't know, like, it's the one place that everyone goes for some reason, almost every day. And I don't hear anything. Like, I never knew when there'd be a parade in town, ever. Until I get stuck on the side of the road because I can't cross the street to go back to work or something because they're coming through town and the road's blocked off and and that's when I know. But it's like I should know. How am I not keeping? I'm in the thick of crowds of people every day. You know, I'm like, how am I not hearing about this stuff? So my thing is like, there's so many cool things going on, and I know I'm not the only one because like I talked to also a bunch of people that I work with, and they're like, oh, I didn't know this was happening, or I didn't know this was happening. Like I keep on hearing, I don't know. So maybe this is the place where you find out life at night,
right?
You know. And I feel like this is a good way to bring everybody together, which is why I wanted you on, because you are also another really cool person. I think you're, and turns out I'm right. It's a bomb ass jerky, some good fruit roll-ups. Hopefully next time I can have you on again and you can bring some mead. And free mead. Legal mead. No, but it's community though that bring this magical feeling, and I think it makes people happy. Yeah. And I think we need a lot of that. I think we need to be happy. And there's a lot of unhappy people in town in the world right now. And I think this is a good push for happiness. And I'm very grateful to have you on and everybody else on, and I think I'm going to close with that right now because this has been great, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.